Carrick Kasari, 35, lived in Victoria, a region within the Kunti district. His father, Janadan Kasari, was a reputed landowner who held extensive farmland. Carrick's household included his parents, himself, and his sister, who was already married. He was a thoughtful and well-educated man who always supported his father in agricultural work. Being the only son, his father urged him to remain at home rather than pursue a government career, as their financial status was already stable. Carrick agreed, believing it wiser to stay by his aging parents' side and ensure their well-being in their later years. When he reached the age for marriage, many proposals were presented to him. Among them was a girl named Pri, known for her beauty and graceful nature. Carrick's father approved of the match, and in 2011, Carrick tied the knot with Pri. Over time, Carrick's married life proved to be fulfilling. He led a contented life with his wife Pri and their 2 daughters. His professional efforts bore fruit, keeping the household financially sound. The family shared a warm connection and never experienced discord or resentment. In fact, Carrick's home resembled the kind of perfect family often portrayed in films. However, on the night of September 28, 2019, none of them could have foreseen that the shadow that would fall upon them would be darker than a night without a moon. Around 10 p.m. on that very evening, September 28, 2019, everything began to change. Carrick and his wife Pi had spent the day in Ranchi, picking up supplies for an upcoming festival. As they drove back home to Victoria in their white Wagon R, the evening air was calm and the roads were unusually empty. Carrick was behind the wheel, while Pi sat beside him. The two were talking cheerfully, unaware of the danger waiting ahead. As they entered a deserted stretch of road, a motorcycle with 2 young men zoomed past them, before suddenly halting right in front of their car. Carrick reacted quickly, slamming the brakes and narrowly avoiding a collision. At that moment, he noticed a white Scorpio parked nearby. Before he could process what was happening, the 2 men from the bike approached their car, yelling and ordering him to step out. Suddenly, 2 more men got out of the Scorpio, one holding a heavy iron rod. Sensing that something was terribly wrong, Carrick hesitated. The area was deserted, and the tension in the air was thick. The men on the motorcycle kept shouting, urging him to get out. With no one around and Pi frozen in fear beside him, Carrick stepped out of the vehicle. The moment he did, all 4 men launched a brutal attack on him. They struck him with rods and sticks mercilessly. One heavy blow landed on the back of his head, cracking his skull. Carrick let out a scream and collapsed, blood pooling around him. Pi, still inside the car, sat frozen in shock and terror as she witnessed the horrifying scene unfold in front of her eyes. Her husband, her life partner, taking his final breath. After confirming that Carrick was no longer moving, the attackers fled the scene. Trembling and sobbing, Pi stepped out of the car and fell to her knees beside Carrick's bloodied body. She shook him, hoping for a response, but he was gone. In a state of complete panic and heartbreak, she called her nephew, Shankar, crying and begging for help. Shankar, alarmed by her voice, rushed to the scene immediately. Meanwhile, Pi also called her father-in-law, Janadan Kasari, and brother-in-law Ranjit to inform them of the shocking incident. As word spread through the family, more relatives began arriving at the scene. Upon reaching the spot, Shankar found Carrick lying unconscious in a pool of blood. He acted quickly, grabbing a towel and wrapping it tightly around Carrick's head to stop the bleeding. With the help of other relatives, they lifted Carrick into a car and drove him to the nearest hospital. But by the time they arrived, it was too late. The doctors pronounced him dead. Since the area where the attack happened fell under the Kank police station's jurisdiction, the authorities were immediately informed. A police team arrived at the hospital, and soon a large crowd of locals and Carrick's relatives gathered, devastated by the tragic news. Carrick wasn't just a businessman who ran a ration shop. He was also a respected social worker who had touched many lives in his community. His grieving family urged the police to act swiftly and catch the killers. The superintendent of police assured them that they would leave no stone unturned in the investigation, but also asked the family to cooperate and not interfere with the legal process. Calmed slightly by these words, the family allowed the police to take Carrick's body for a post-mortem. Back at the crime scene, the police found bloodstains scattered across the area. They collected samples of the blood-soaked soil as forensic evidence, but didn't find any other concrete clues. That night, based on a written complaint by Janardan Kasari, a case was registered against 5 unidentified assailants for murder and tampering with evidence. The investigation began immediately. The police questioned Pai, who recounted the horrific attack, saying that 4 to 5 men had beaten Carrick with iron rods and sticks before fleeing on 2 motorcycles. She added that the attackers had covered their faces, making them unidentifiable. The post-mortem report, released on September 30th, confirmed what everyone feared. Carrick had died from multiple severe head injuries and heavy blood loss. Days passed, but the police struggled to make progress in the case. No arrests were made, and no strong leads emerged. Frustration grew among the victim's family. Under pressure, SSP Anil Gupta formed a special investigation team led by a DSP-level officer. The team revisited the crime scene and began reinvestigating every angle. According to their findings, the attack took place while Carrick and Pai were returning from Ranchi, but the motive remained unclear. If robbery had been the goal, Pai would have been targeted too, but nothing was taken from her. Several puzzling details started to raise doubts in the minds of investigators. Firstly, Pai remained in the car the entire time her husband was being beaten to death. Despite having a phone with her, she didn't try to call for help until after the attackers fled. Why hadn't she done anything? Why hadn't she at least called someone immediately? Secondly, her timeline didn't add up. She told police the attackers had escaped toward Pithoria Chowk on motorcycles. However, CCTV footage from the area showed no such bikers at the time she mentioned. Her statement began to look suspicious. These inconsistencies led police to believe that Pai might know more than she was letting on. They began examining her call records. That's when they uncovered a shocking detail. Just before the attack, Pai had made multiple calls to the same number. Upon tracing it, the number was found to belong to a man named Ankit Kasari from the Kunti district. The police quickly raided Ankit's house, only to learn that he had left around 15 days earlier and hadn't returned. His sudden disappearance further confirmed their suspicion of his involvement. Now, the investigation shifted focus to Pai. If they could pressure her, perhaps the truth would finally surface. On October 10, 2019, Pai was arrested in Victoria County and brought in for questioning. At first, she denied everything, insisting she had nothing to do with the murder. But when police confronted her with the call logs and details about Ankit, her composure began to crack. Slowly, the truth emerged. A tale darker and more disturbing than anyone had imagined. Pai confessed that although Carrick's family had welcomed her warmly after the marriage and treated her like royalty, she was never truly happy. She didn't find Carrick attractive and often thought of her childhood sweetheart Ankit. The two had grown up together, and their bond had blossomed into love long before Pai's marriage. But since they were from the same village, her family had disapproved and quickly married her off to Carrick. All of them knew about the ongoing affair between Ankit and Pai. When Pai asked Ankit to stay away from her home, he became angry and started to contemplate getting rid of Carrick altogether. Ankit arranged everything. Vishal Pandey waited in the Scorpio with the murder weapons, iron rods and sticks. Deepak and Mangesh were on motorcycles, ready to execute the plan. At around 10 p.m., when Carrick's car entered a lonely stretch near Badu Chowk, Deepak sped ahead and blocked their path. Just as planned, the ambush was carried out with chilling precision. The moment he stepped outside, Vishal struck him forcefully on the head with an iron rod. Carrick immediately collapsed, dying at the scene. Inside the car, Pai witnessed the entire incident. In her heart, she felt a twisted sense of relief. Carrick was gone for good, and now nothing stood between her and a need. Carrick's parents were left shattered. Pai had married Carrick under pressure from her family and was never truly content with the marriage. But instead of choosing a more honorable path, she embraced a sinister route and took away the life of their only son, their pillar in their aging years. After the murder, police arrested Pai on December 10, 2019. They also apprehended Vishal Pandey, while Ankit and the others managed to flee. Later, in March 2020, authorities arrested Deepak Linda, Ujjwal Kasari, and Mangesh. Finally, in April 2020, Ankit Kasari was captured as well. All suspects confessed to their involvement in the murder. With Ankit's cooperation, police recovered the weapons, rods and sticks, used in the brutal attack. Behind Pai's gentle appearance lay a merciless soul. She betrayed a sacred bond and left her own daughters without a father. That concludes today's harrowing case. Let us know your opinions in the comments section. And if this story moved you, please consider subscribing. Thank you.